I'd like to talk a little bit about creating your own walking bass line from the given chord changes to any song. It's a relatively easy thing to do for bass players, and it seems like a big mystery at first, but I'm going to try to get rid of some of those nebulous zones that prevent us from often walking our own lines. Even if there's a written part, a written walking bass line, it is acceptable to play your own walking bass line if the chord changes are given. There's a few things that you have to get a handle on first. If you don't already know the names of the notes on the bass, you got to get that down. There's just not that many of them. Just do it. Learn, for instance, that this is an F. You know that this is an F, it's always going to be an F. There's a certain shape that you can become used to using that'll help you learn where the notes are. If that's an F, you know that this is an F. 2 strings over, here, let me go ahead and turn this up so you can hear it. Here's an F, and here's an F. 2 strings up, 2 frets up. That's an octave. Here's a B flat, so there's a B flat. Here's a C, so there's a C. Okay? Start to learn all the names of the notes on this area of the bass. I want to show you one more shape that is, and it's a good prelude to learning how to walk bass lines. Here's an F, here's an F. The note that is right here, that's a fifth. So you have an octave and then a fifth in between. So that's F, C, F. So if this is your root, this is your fifth. This is your root again, or the octave. Realize that the root and the octave, it's the same note, right? So if this is a C, that's a C, that's a G. Root, 5, root. Okay. On the graphic that you're going to see come up, these are the chords from a tune called I've Got Rhythm. It's rhythm changes. We just refer to it as rhythm changes. It looks like it might be tough to create a walking bass line over this, but it's really not. In fact, the easiest thing for bass players to do is to walk a bass line when there is a chord every 2 beats. The idea behind a walking bass line, first of all, remember, we're trying to play like upright bass players. We're trying to be smooth, and we're trying to play long notes. So when you're walking, you do not want to do this. You hear those spaces? No good. You want long. Notice I played the same tempo, but just there was no space in there. So for each of the chord changes, we play the root where the chord is defined. And you'll notice that the very first chord that you see is a B flat major 7. We're going to play a B flat. Well, we know that there's a B flat here. There's also a B flat here. Right? You see that the next chord is a G7. Here's a G. Also, here's a G. Well, let's look at that relationship. We have a B flat here. What's the closest G? Well, there's one right there. We had a B flat here. Here's a G here. Next chord, C minor 7. There's a C. There's also a C. Next chord, F. Here's an F. There's also an F. When the chord changes, we have to play the root. We've chosen our instrument. We are playing bass. We have to play that root. So that is a given. Now here's where we start to find ways to connect those chords. You can get from any one chord to another chord by the use of a leading tone. This is a big deal, leading tones. And all a leading tone is a half step or 1 fret above or below the note you're going to. So you start with the B flat. Now we're heading for the G, right? So you can play a half step below and then the G, which will fall on beat 3, or half step above and then the G. And now we're on the G. We want to go a half step above or below this C that's coming up. Now we're going to F, a half step above or below. Let's go below. Now we're going to the D minor 7. Half step above, and here's a D, so a half step above or below. Half step above or below the G. Now the G. So let me play this example kind of slow and you'll kind of get the feel for it. Pretty easy. Try it a little bit faster. Let's try them all approaching from above. Now let's try it all from below. Now let's try first one above, second one below. And then you can mix them up. As you begin to learn the notes on the bass further higher up the neck, start to use those also. Pretty cool, huh? Now the next step is, what happens if you get one chord for an entire bar? Well, let me give you one down and dirty option. Play the root, the fifth, the root in any octave, and then the leading tone. So let's do the same chord progression, but one chord per bar. So the first bar is B flat major 7, second bar is G7, third bar is C minor 7, fourth bar is F7. So here's an example. Now the fifth, now the root, leading tone. Now root, 5, root, leading tone, root, 5, root, leading tone, root, 5, root, leading tone, root. Works. The reason this is such a cool down and dirty pattern, and you should get this under your fingers right away, doesn't matter if the chords are major, minor, anything. You're not worried about the thirds. It covers every chord type. Even the flat 5 chords, you can kind of skate with this. It's okay. So get this under your fingers. Even pros use this kind of a line if all of a sudden we're sight reading something that's coming at us really fast. And you're sitting there all relaxed, and all of a sudden the leader goes, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, 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 whoa. And you don't have the time to think, this is such a perfect pattern for that. So get this one under your fingers. You'll start to hear your own patterns, and you should. That's what makes us each unique. You'll play a different pattern than I would, or a different line than I would. Your pattern will be influenced by the soloist or by something else that has influenced you at the moment. And that's the beauty of jazz. And us as walking bass players, we're improvising. We're actually improvising our bass lines throughout an entire song. So you're looking to find your unique way of approaching chords with a walking bass line. Eventually, you'll have such a blast when these tunes are, someone's going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., 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 etc. It'll start to become second nature to you. That's the essence of creating walking bass lines. Remember, long notes, no spaces in the notes, connect from chord change to chord change with a leading tone, and fill in the insides with roots and fifths. If it's a minor chord, you'll use a flat third if you choose thirds, and I'm going to talk more about that in a section coming up. Often we, as bass players, have to walk through a tune that is modal. And all modal means is it's staying on one chord for a significant amount of time. So here's the one piece of advice I can give you to get through a tune like this. Start to walk in phrases. And what I mean by walking in phrases, play the root every second bar. Or, in other words, you're going to play 2 bars before you play the root again. So here's an example. And I'm going to think D minor, but I'm only going to play the D on the downbeat of the first bar, and then again on the downbeat of the third bar. So here would be a 2-bar phrase. Right? So here's a D, there's a D. So let me do it and see if you can't feel what this sounds like if I play this for a total of 8 bars. And you'll feel 4 phrases come at you. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, occasionally I did hit another D in there because it was part of my line, but I made sure that I landed on a D every other bar. So you're actually playing in 2-bar phrases. That'll help you to get through the tune. It helps you to not have to keep track of so many bars and where you're at in the form, because now you're playing in phrases. So good luck with that, and have some fun walking modally.